So you guys won't believe what I just purchased today. This might honestly make me have to get a second mortgage and maybe put the kids up for adoption or something, because this right here is the, oh yeah, I have nothing.
I have nothing!
Because I live in the state of California where we have a 10-day waiting period for all firearms. Now, surprisingly, when I did my research on this, I found out California isn't the only state. You have states like Hawaii, which have a 14-day waiting period. You got Maryland, Rhode Island, and Minnesota all have 7-day waiting periods. And then there's Washington, which, similar to California, has a 10-day waiting period. And shockingly on this list is Florida with a 3-day waiting period for handguns, which, if you have a CCW or if you're doing a trade-in, doesn't apply, or of course if you're law enforcement, which I'll be getting into that later in this video. But for the sake of this video, I'll just be sticking to California and the regulations we have here, since this is where I live and have a better understanding about how things work here. Now, before I talk about current day California, I think it's important to understand that California wasn't always like this. So going back to 1923, California became one of the first states to introduce a 1-day waiting period, which at the time only applied to handguns. Now, years later in 1955, that waiting period was extended to 3 days, which was then later increased to 5 days in 1965. I mean, it got so crazy that at one point they increased it all the way to 15 days in 1975.
It's a 15-day wait on the handguns, but the rifles you can take right now. You can't do that.
Now, this was all largely due to the rise in political violence at the time in the US, with high-profile assassinations like JFK, Malcolm X, MLK. Now, keep in mind, California was also seeing a widespread of civil rights movements, along with a rise in gang violence in cities like Los Angeles and San Francisco, which raised a public safety concern, leading to a push for higher cooling-off periods for gun purchases, which lawmakers believed this would help and prevent, impulsive acts of gun violence, which those 15 days were thankfully reduced to 10 days in 1991. This change came after the pushback from Second Amendment supporters who felt that having to wait that long infringed on their Second Amendment rights. You also had huge improvements in technology that made it faster to access criminal and mental health history, which helped in speeding up background checks, all that eventually leading to a compromise between gun control and Second Amendment rights in California. Now, fast forward to 1997, and California passed another reform extending the 10-day waiting periods to include all long guns. This was done in order to close a loophole that allowed people to purchase long guns that same day when they realized that long guns could also be used to commit crimes. Now, this all brings us to present day California, where we have a 10-day waiting period for all firearms. Okay, now let's talk about current day California. There's been several cases challenging California's 10-day waiting period. Recent lawsuits include Richards v. Bonta, arguing that waiting periods are unconstitutional and delay people's rights to self-defense, especially when they have already passed the background check, which, I'll be honest, when I was 18 and I bought my first shotgun, a Remington 870, I remember being told I needed to wait 10 days to pick it up, which I thought, okay, that's probably just how long it takes for a background check to come back, right? It wasn't until later on I found out, watching other YouTube creators from different states, that these things come back within minutes, or at most a few hours, not 10 days. So what could be the reasoning to have a 10-day waiting period then, if it's not to check if you have a clean record? Well, according to lawmakers, it's so law enforcement can have more time to go through your background and double check to make sure you're not a criminal or someone who's not supposed to be in possession of a firearm, which I don't know what else they could be looking for, because backgrounds already check for criminal and mental health history, along with dishonorable military discharge, unlawful immigration status, any open warrant, any documented history of domestic violence and drug use. Now, you might also hear that this is meant as a cool down period to prevent impulsive decisions like homicide or self-harm, which I can see the self-harm part maybe if it only applied to first-time buyers. Now, that doesn't mean I agree with it, because at the end of the day, you're still stopping people from exercising their rights. The part I don't understand is, why do I still have to wait the 10 days when I already own firearms? So the whole concept of the 10 days to serve as a cooldown period to prevent impulsive decisions goes completely out the window when you already have firearms in which you can use to commit those acts. Now, another thing, and there's no hate towards law enforcement, but why is it that they don't have to wait the 10 days? Most arguments I've heard for this usually go along the lines of, well, they need it for their own protection. No shit. How do you think the rest of us feel when we have things like BLM riots and COVID lockdowns where people are taking advantage and openly committing crimes because there's not enough policing to stop it? Yeah, most rational people are thinking, well, if the police can't protect me, then it's up to me to protect myself and my family. And now imagine going to a shop thinking you're about to purchase a tool which can help you to do so, just to be told, okay, everything checked out, all you have to do now is survive 10 days during the shithole in order to pick up your weapon. Look, all this to say we need change. Now, at the time of recording this, Donald Trump has already won the 2024 election and is going to be the 47th president of the United States, which is a huge W for the Second Amendment on a federal level. Now, that doesn't mean states where 2A rights are being infringed upon are just going to magically go back to normal, because they're not. They still have tyrants like Gavin Newsom that are going to do whatever it takes to stop that from happening. But one thing this election has taught me is that if enough people wake up to the nonsense happening, change is possible, even in states like California. So Gavin Newsom, wake the fuck up. It's not 2020 anymore. California is no longer an all blue state, and the more people start voting differently, the faster we'll be able to get tyrants out of office like Gavin Newsom. That's all I gotta say. Hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, make sure to like and subscribe. Also, if you want to check out my Instagram at Shadow the Wicked, I post shooting drills on there every week. Or if you just want to, get in contact with me, that's a good place. But other than that, guys, hope you guys have a good weekend. Stay safe and God bless.